So we as consumers, we were functioning in a way where we were relying on possibly a friend or a neighbor to give us a recommendation for a professional or a provider of some type of service, where to go buy a certain thing. And as I progressed in my own company, I started to recognize like there was one thing in particular that really stood out. So what the company was about was relocating older adults from their homes to independent living or assisted living. This included downsizing. It included professional organizing, getting your records and documents in order. That's how I started the Ducks in a Row program. So this all happened. And one of the things I remember when I had a client who we were moving, and what I had done was before I opened the business, I curated all of the vendors that I would need in order to operate the business. And I did that in a certain way and with vetting them and all. And then you begin to use them. And some of them pan out and some don't, but you really keep tabs on that and you go forward. So years into it, I had a client who'd said, well, my neighbor had a mover and I want to use that mover. And I said, oh, that's fine. I said, but I just want you to know I've used this particular or these moving companies hundreds of times. And so the vetting process was what happened in the beginning, but ongoing, I'm tracking their abilities and their skills, their way of relating to customers, all of that. So you accumulate this knowledge as a professional, and there's always the skepticism that, oh, well, they're doing, they're recommending someone because it's their friend, or they're trying to benefit someone for a reason other than providing you with the best service. But what you have to realize is that when many highly reputable companies are recommending people within their scope that they have used many, many times, they have more information about that company than your neighbor will, or your sister-in-law, or whoever, right? They've used them once or twice. They have a plumber who they've used a few times. They've had, right? But they have not had the long-term relationship. So that's one thing that I want you to just keep in mind as we go through this. But what I'm going to do is I want to show you and talk about how easy it is to vet someone with these key steps. So I provided a handout that was on the website, but of course, I will put it in the follow-up email, and everybody put their email addresses into the chat so I can send you the handout. But so we're going to run through these things and how easy it is to find a type of professional when you have no information, no recommendation, nothing. You don't know where to start. Or you've been giving a recommendation, but you want to follow up with it, right? You want to be able to make sure that they are reputable and they do have what's necessary. Because the worst thing in the world is to start with a professional and then get into trouble. And then in hindsight, you realize that, if I had only looked online, it was plain as day as to there was something not right about this particular person or this particular service. So what I'm going to do is I think I'll share the screen for the document, and we'll kind of go up and down a little bit here, but I want you to to see it. Let me get the toolbar out of the way. There we go. Okay. So the first thing, you know, we're going to so pick a you know, a profession, and in this case, I've picked you know, on the example I stuck in an elder law attorney, but it can be anything, right? And it is it's pretty much the same for most, right? So this is kind of general, but you'd have to adapt it for certain professions a little bit, you know, that might not have a professional or a trade association. So the first thing you do is you pick your browser. And so whatever browser you use to search things on the internet, you go to that. I just want to remind you about DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo is one that I use because it does not track anything that I'm searching. So if you're looking to search and you don't want to receive any information or ads or anything, Google tracks everything, DuckDuckGo tracks nothing. So it's, you know, but it's your choice. Any browser works. So what you would do is, so let's just say you wanted to, you've had a lawyer, you know, most of your adult life for simple things. You know, you did a simple will, you did, you know, whatever you did in the beginning that, you know, set up what you needed. You know, maybe you got the will, a living will, powers of attorney, things like that, or you had some issues over the course of your life where you used an attorney. You may have needed a real estate attorney, you may have needed a tax attorney, you know, there's all different types of attorneys. So as we age, it's really great to look for an elder law attorney. So that's why I'm using this, because it's just something good to have in your pocket. You may never need, you know, specifically, but it's a great idea to connect with one or more and get somebody on your team, so to speak. So what I do is when there's the particular profession, I go into, I'll just use the term Google. I go into to Google and I search elder law attorney, and I put the words professional association after that. And so when the professional association pops up, it will, and so I think I will go ahead and do that very thing. Let's see if it's gonna let me stop the share and put this over here. I'll share again. And I'm going to use Google this time just to make it easy. So I'm going to Google elder law. Okay, so when you look at what pops up, right, there's a National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. So that's the professional association. This is going to happen with all sorts of professions. They almost all have their association, and some of them have more than one. National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, National Elder Law Foundation, right? And there's just usually like 2 or 3 at the most. But NELA up here is one of the main ones, and although they're all great, and so various attorneys can be members of these organizations. And so when you look when you go to these websites of these particular organizations, it'll say, you know, like a locator, find a, you know, all the different terms. And then, you know, but really what it is a locator. So we're going to go on to find a lawyer. And I'm not a robot. Whoop. All right, and this is what a locator typically does. So we don't know anybody's name, we don't know anything, right? We just know that we're looking for an elder law attorney, and somebody give me their zip code. Oh, you're on mute.
100.
80209.
Whoop, wait a minute. Go ahead.
80209.
80209. All right, so we're going to look at the results, and we can set, right? We can set the miles of how far away. So I'm going to say 25 miles, so we get a good search. And so then here, no name, but we're going to just hit search. And up pops, oh, I know Marco, I know Frank, I know Bradley, I don't know Sherry, don't know. But here are all the elder law attorneys, and there are more within this particular area. Oh, I know Arlene, Richard, I know. Yeah, so anyway, but make believe I don't know any of these people. All right, and what I'll do is, let me go back to the first page. So if you notice, there are those who are members who have filled out the information, and there are those, and it tells you how many miles away they are from your zip code area, and there are those who have not. So when you're vetting, I have very strict criteria. I don't have time to waste, right? I'm not interested. Look, you didn't think it, you're a member and you didn't think it was valuable enough to put your information up or your photo, no, you didn't bother. Well, if you didn't bother with that, what else are you not going to bother with? And they may be excellent attorneys, but when you're vetting, I can't research everybody. So I'm going to look at the people that have a more robust profile. So I'm able to see what his area of practice is. And in this particular locator, they're not giving me much help on this front portion, right? But I'm going to go actually to Bradley. I've had him speak for me before because I vetted him already. I want you to see something. So you click on their name and you get a lot more information, right? But this is what I'm looking for. So Bradley, he is a CELA, he's a fellow, and he's a CAP. So what that is this is a certified elder law attorney, and a certified, and what you can do is when you come into this professional organization, you can say, you can search, credentials and find out what the credentials are in a particular field. For some reason, Colorado doesn't feel like certified elder law attorney is a valuable certification. So many in Colorado do not have this. Bradley not only has it and has other credentials, he also was the president of this organization at one time. So, I mean, I've done a lot of research on him to find out who was good to speak about elder law. And I've had various elder law attorneys speak in different programs, but so I just happen to know this. But so step one, you go to the professional association and you look at, and you look, Google credentials, search credentials and see what comes up in terms of them telling you what credentials that they offer. The other thing is that I want to see things like, so we know his practice areas. He's done presentations, publications, all of this stuff. So he's very prolific. But this doesn't tell me, how long have you been in business? How long have you, that. So, all right, this is giving me general information and contact information. But this is what I'm now looking for, is his website. So I'm going to go to his website, and most locators will take you, give you their general contact information and take you to the website. So what I'm looking for now is, I'm going to look for specific information on him. Here's his education, his experience, his areas of practice, where he's been an expert witness, professional affiliations. These are his licenses. These are his certifications. These are his publications. So if I want now, I know, oh my gosh, obviously he's been around a long time. So you can see all the years of all the publications he's done. And the other thing that I want you to notice here is that you look back at his education and you can get an idea of how long he's been in practice. So now you've got some information where you can make a comparison. So say we went back and we wanted to look at so Marco Chiat, just as amazing a lawyer. Where am I going here? I lost it. There it is. And I can do the same thing with him. So I would really just take 2 or 3 and make a comparison. So same thing, I click on this. I'm going to go very fast through this. I'm going to check out all of his stuff. Now he doesn't have as much listed on that page, but I'm going to go to his website. And then, their philosophy and, the people in their firm. Let's see, are we going to get there? Still spinning. So this way, you're able to look and see. So based on the professional association, you're looking for a few people that are in your close proximity, and you're going to go, I don't know why this isn't, oh, here are the attorneys, right? So here's Marco, oh, Dawn's still there. Yeah, so these are, so you would click on Marco. Oh, I guess this COVID notice stays up. Yeah, so this gives more information. Marco had an experience with his grandma, and that really, changed his whole philosophy in life and how he does things. So, and believe it or not, he happens to be the person who was very instrumental in starting the funder that we have in Colorado, the Next 50 initiative. He's now the president of that board. So, very engaged and involved in older adult issues. Just turn this off. So, you'll be able to read, you can read and compare, 2 or 3 people and see who you want to contact and who you would want to interview. So, and by interviewing, if I searched it would have told me what it stands for because I didn't know what it stands for. Yes, let me just answer that question. When you look up credentials, it's a bunch of letters. And it is not anything that the general public understands. So for instance, with an accountant, the accountant who earns their CPA, what does that mean? The term is certified public accountant. But a certified public accountant, all it means is that they can do audits, right? So, but the public doesn't know what that means. And so it's interesting with these credentials, but the thing about credentials that are important, so when you see letters after people's names, is that most letters after the name are involved with a credential that mean they must have continuing education. And that's what you're looking for. You don't want a professional who got a degree in the 70s or 80s and has not bothered to learn anything else since, right? So the credentials are very helpful. So for instance, I held a number of credentials, which I've just this year let them go. So I'm at the end of my career, and it's expensive to hold credentials. So often it is, but it's an indicator that this person is constantly learning. So if you're obligated to have so many credit hours per year or term, whatever, when you hold a credential. And a credential can be, there are certificates, which really, there is no continuing education for certificates. Certifications, there is continuing education for a certification. And duly or duly accredited certifications are the highest level of a credential. So, and this is stuff that you can find out, and I'm going to give you all something that's called questions to ask when hiring generally a professional, but then I also have ones for all different professions. So for an elder law attorney, for what was called like a geriatric care manager, or an accountant, or a financial planner, or, so various professions. I haven't done them all, but I have a fair number of them that you can benefit from. So somebody has SPCO, they're asking about what it is after my name. That is not a credential. That's just Senior Planet Colorado. So we distinguish between Senior Planet New York, Colorado, Palo Alto, San Antonio, Montgomery County, and North Country in New York. So that's what, so yeah, my credentials were CSA, Certified Senior Advisor, and Certified Living in Place was the other credential that I held recently for my senior work. But I want to go on, and the next piece of it is, so now let's say we were looking at those two people, right? Marco and Bradley. And so we're going to compare them. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to say, well, wait a minute here. Let's, share this. So we went to the Professional and Trade Association, and we investigated the website to see if there's certifications or credentials tied to the field. So here I have this. There's also licenses. So if you're a nurse, you must have a license. And one of the things that's great about somebody who's connected to a certification is that you can go to that certification organization, right? So I can actually go to the state of Colorado, and if there is someone who has a license, they're licensed by the state. So let's say you needed a caregiver and they had what is called a CNA, Certified Nursing Assistant, right? And you wanted to see, are they in good standing? Are they just saying they're a CNA, or are they really a CNA? You can just go to the Colorado state website, and you can check their credentials. Same with the certification. So if someone held a credential that's issued by a certain body, you go to that body's website, and there's a locator there, and you can see they cannot be on that locator if they are not in good standing. Whether they're an attorney and you're checking the Bar Association, the minute they do something wrong, they're off. So they would not even be on the website if they were, there was any issue. So after that, so then we did this, we went to the locator, we clicked on the button, we did the, how many miles from your zip code, looking for the professional in your area. So you see, who's there. And based on what you found out with the industry credentials, you look for the list of professionals in your area that you want to decide to vet. So it's not to say that the credentials mean they are excellent or not excellent. It's just a vetting indicator. So from there, you're looking at, you want to get all this information about them. You want to just jot this down. And like we did, we went and we visited their website. I didn't really go into this, but, just poke around, look at what they're saying about things, what are their services, and just get an idea, is this what you're looking for? So then what I do is, then those of you who were on the LinkedIn call the other day, this is why I wanted to do this in the particular order. So we went to LinkedIn, and what we did was we looked at, so let me go to LinkedIn.
Here's the plan for lifestyle. Call us at 877.
Second.
We pay cash for homes and meter repairs and can settle in.
I want to keep you on mute, Irma. You've got background noise. So I'll share again. So then I go to LinkedIn. And there's this search bar up here. So here's Marco Chayette, one of the attorneys that we just talked about. So with Marco, and I'm just going to do this quickly because many of you were on the LinkedIn call and I don't want to belabor this. So what you're looking for is, if you need more information, contact information, here it is. And then this is always key, the about. You're getting a sense of who this person is, what's important to them, their experience. So here's where you're going to find out how many years they've been in business or in their profession, and what type of things have they done, what was their education, volunteer experience. I feel that that's really important. So here we go. I was telling you, he is chairman of the board of the Next 50 Initiative, which is our #1 funder for Senior Planet Colorado. So he's a board member of the Rose Community Foundation and Innovage Careers, things like that. These are important issues. Then, how many recommendations? I don't really get too big on that. It's very difficult to get recommendations. You have to give a lot of recommendations in order to get them. So it's pretty. It takes a lot of work. So don't judge somebody based on how many recommendations they have on LinkedIn. People are not confident in their writing skills, and many don't feel comfortable about writing recommendations. So anyway, I check out. So if I was looking at Bradley and Marco, I'm comparing the two. And so, surprised I never connected with Bradley on. So anyway, you would do the same thing. You're just going to do a quick comparison. So if you think about it, the amount of time it would have taken to Google the profession, to get to the professional association, just try to figure out, are there on that website, are there any credentials? Then put your zip code in the locator, look at a couple of top people, and then you get 2 or 3. You compare them both on LinkedIn, and now you've got a good feeling, right? So let's say we've done 3 of them. We're going to narrow it down to 2, and you're just going with your gut here. So you're going to check him out in the same way that you did with Marco. So after you go to, let me just get back to the document. Dave, can I make you, wait, was somebody trapped in the waiting room? Somebody, yeah, Dawn keeps getting looped in.
Do you want to make me a
Yeah, I'm gonna
co-host
do a
and keep an eye
co-host.
on it?
Yeah, if you can watch, I think she gets kicked out or something.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you, Dave.
you're welcome.
So back to the share. So once you've done this, right, this takes no more than 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. Once you've done it a couple of times, it'll go much faster. So you just follow these steps here.
I got salad in the fridge. Whenever you're ready.
Which you're going to get. And then, so now if you want to, websites will show, lawyers in particular don't necessarily have this, but other professions might have things like Facebook and, Twitter and Instagram and all of that. Like, let's say you're looking for a florist, right? And you want to compare their floral designs. Instagram is a great place to go for that. Or possibly Facebook, but Instagram is something that they're using very readily. Or say there's something you're looking for a videographer and you want to see some examples of their work. YouTube would be a good place to check out. But the idea is when you're on the website, go look for the icons for social media on their website. Don't go and try to do a search. It's much quicker. Just click on it, do a quick scan and see. There are some times that you just see things that you'll be like, I just don't think that way. I don't feel that way. I don't feel that I would relate to this person. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. And, as I said before, you're looking for things like years in business or in the particular field, education credentials, continued professional development, very important. Community involvement, volunteering, articles written by them, videos that the individual produced, etc. So you've got impressions, right? Your gut is telling you certain things, and you just go with that. So now that you've done that, this is really important. Go back to Google or whatever your favorite browser is, and you're going to put in their name. If they have a nickname, you can try that, and you're going to do various things. So I would put Marco Chiat, accused of, convicted of, bankruptcy, any bad words you can think of, because it is very easy for professionals to bury things in searches. So the more you produce, the more articles you write, the more prolific you are, the more positive things you do on the internet, they push back the older stuff. So by using these words, when you're vetting somebody, you're able to bring up anything that might have been negative. And so it brings that up into the forefront of the search, and you're able to glean some information. I Googled myself when I started teaching all of this, and there was a woman in, I think, one of the Carolinas with my name. There are only 3 of us, I think, in the United States with my name. And she had a bankruptcy. And so I like knowing that, because if I am being vetted and checked out for, let's say you're, for a job or for someone who wants to work with me on a particular project or whatever professional thing there is, that I would be able to explain that yes, that, associated with my name is a bankruptcy, but it isn't me, and this is who it is, and all of that. So I have that information. So once you feel that any individual has passed your online vetting, now it's time to actually contact them. And you just pick up the phone. Or if you want, you can email. And when I do this professionally to build a network, but this is, personally or professionally, it works. I think that the nicest thing is that when you call them and you say, I just did online vetting and you come up as the best in your field in this area, and I'd like to set a meeting with you. And, you can tell their receptionist that, or you can tell whoever answers the phone, or you can talk to them directly. And when possible, so it's not safe to do this now, I highly recommend, if you're able, to go to their office or place of work in person. You will learn a lot from your observation. Is it chaotic? Is it clean? Is it, orderly? What, things that are important to you in your gut, you feel like, oh, this seems like a good place to work, right? So these people are, functioning in a professional manner. So you just, again, impression. You're getting impressions. Nothing is foolproof. But if you can't, now we have the ability to do Zoom. And if you were, say you're looking to hire a printer to do some special work for you, that you would contact them and say, oh, can you take your laptop around and show me, a little bit of how this works? So there's ways, not only sitting like we are doing in front of each other, in front at a particular seat, and then we're all on a call together. You can also walk around with devices and see things if you need to see them. But anyway, this is where the questions that I'm going to give you become really important. So as you're vetting them, you're noting these impressions. And one of the things that's great is that as you're doing this, right, you keep this information, and then you become a good source for people to, your friends and family to come to, where you're able to say, oh, I have vetted these few people and I highly recommend based on my vetting, but I'm only going to tell you how far I've been with them. So I've vetted them, but I haven't hired them. I've vetted them, but I've hired them. I've only used them once. I've hired them and I've used them 10 times. So you could qualify what the vetting process has been for you. So the idea of doing this in advance and developing a team is that you want to do these things, and in particular as we age, there are certain professions that benefit us, or having a relationship with certain professionals prior to a crisis. So don't wait for something to happen before you have possibly a professional advocate. So one of the things that it's very difficult to do is you don't want to have to do the job of vetting, 40 different professions in case one thing happens to you. Like, that's unrealistic. So I'm running you through this for the purpose of finding and vetting really a particular professional who already has vetted all the other professions that are needed for those of us as we age. So some of these professionals are either social workers, aging life care professionals. They used to be called geriatric care managers, case or care managers, aging or living in place professionals, and certified senior advisors also. So there's a variety of professionals within these industries that are great one-stop shops. So I want to show you, this is a very generic questions to ask. So it's something that, so let's say we're going to get out of the aging space and we'll talk about like a plumber, right? So you need a plumber and you want to know things like how long have they been in business. This is where you would want to get a certificate of insurance. If you're going to work with them, you ask them for a certificate of insurance from their insurance company that's made out to you. You're looking at any background or credentials they hold. In the case of a plumber, it's a license, and you can check on their license. So you ask for their license number. So this has to do with, do they understand about working with older adults? Do they understand? So this is where certified senior advisors come in, because they clearly understand. They understand things like we humans lose hearing at higher octaves first. So talking with a high-pitched voice is not always, we're not always able to hear that. So lowering the register of your voice, looking eye to eye with someone, being able to speak at a rate and pace that's manageable. As we age, we are just as smart as we were, if not smarter, but we might just need a beat to process, right? So this has nothing to do with cognitive decline. It's just a normal part of aging. So people who are used to dealing with older adults, if you get a professional who mumbles or holds their head down or speaks a different language and you don't understand, or with a heavy accent, you need to be crystal clear that we're not communicating. We need to communicate in such a way that I am knowledgeable about what I'm getting into. Also, things like contracts. Are you allowing me to take that blank contract home and really read it clearly, or get someone to assist me who maybe knows legal jargon a little bit better, and you want to review it with someone, a friend, a family member, or another professional? If they're not, you've got to be skeptical. So it's the idea of being very willing to work with us as older adults, fulfilling our needs, and knowing that the communication is so key. The other thing is many times we go to particular companies or professionals to hire them. They're the person we vetted. So let's say Marco and Bradley, we vetted them. One of the questions I want to ask them is, are you actually the one who's going to do the work? And that may not be the case. They may be giving that work to their associates within their office. Well, I want to vet that person. I want to meet that person. I want to go through the whole rigor with them. In the caregiving industry and the moving industry, it's really interesting, right? They both send out a very polished professional to come to your home and talk to you about the service, and you never see them again. They have nothing to do. So you're judging, right? You're making a determination to hire based on a relationship with someone that isn't going to do your work. So who are we being, almost tricked here? We really need to find out the actual people who do the work. I need to speak to them. And there are many caregiving companies who will not allow you to do that. Won't work with them. So that and as a consumer, you have every right to question every little thing before you engage into any kind of work or contract or agreement with any professional. So, we want to go through, and this is, like I said, this is very generic and about aging. But I wanted to read I wrote this little poem here, and I don't know how great it is, but I think it says something that you want to make sure. So if you could stand in my shoes, hear what I hear, see what I see, feel what I feel, would you work with me differently? You would if you listen to me, if you have respect and compassion for me as an individual with unique needs. So I don't want to hear from a mover that, oh, we're going to give you, we'll have 2 guys here and we're going to, take care of everything. And I'm saying, all right, 2 guys to move me that's going to take, how long do you estimate that will take them to get me packed up into that truck? And they'll say, oh, well, it'll probably take about 8 hours. Well, that means 12 hours. So if I have the wherewithal, I want to say, no, I want 4 guys. I'll pay for 4 guys to pack me up. So in other words, you've got to listen to me. Don't necessarily, if you find a professional who's so rigid in the way they do things. I remember when my children were little, it was an accident. The doctor, the pediatrician was in the office. The kids were going to get physicals, and he opened the door to go out and get something. I mean, to ask the person at the desk what insurance that I had, so he would know what type of physical to give. And it was a young mom, and I didn't understand at the time. And he came back in, and I said, I just overheard you asking about the type of insurance and the different sort of checklist of the things you were going to do with the kids in the physical exam. And he says, oh yeah, it's all based on, I said, you know what? I'd like to be asked, I want the full physical, and anything that my insurance doesn't cover, I'll pay for. But I want to know. So don't judge, that, this is something that as consumers, medicine decided that, oh, well, you agreed to this particular insurance company, so that means you agreed to everything that insurance company wants to do. No, maybe not. Maybe I want more or less or whatever, right? So this is where, it's not always easy to understand, but questioning is allowed. And if they're getting annoyed with you for questioning, they're not the professional for you. They should be so happy that you did your homework and you understand. So when I give you the other, you'll see when you get the follow-up email, when you get the other types of questions to ask, they're very long, and it's certainly not something where you have to ask them every single question. Most are yes and no answers. But the reason that you want to question them is to, or to at least read the questions, is to find out, what does that profession actually do in its entirety? There are certain things we're not aware of. So this will be helpful in understanding the profession as well. So I'm going to stop here. And, do you have any questions or discussions? Do you think this is crazy? What do you feel? Oh, and I just wanted to say hi, Eve. We haven't seen you in so long.
I have a question, Judy.
Yeah, Gail.
So when you're going through the details of, just say, that lawyer, and you can say go to LinkedIn, and you said to go ahead and click on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook from their front page there that you've pulled up. If you're not a member of any of those social media groups, can you still access that?
Yes, you will see the public page. So you'll see the parts that anybody in the public can see without being a member. So no, you do not have to be a member, or you don't have to be connected to them in any way. Yes, so you'll see what each individual professional is allowing you to see, or the platform. Platform has certain setups too. So yeah, you do not need to join any of those.
Should I be concerned if I can't see behind the platform?
No, usually the stuff that's behind the platform has to do with the people who are connected on that platform. So it would be their communications, or their, like you can't see, for instance, how many people they're connected to, or who they're connected to, or, things like that. So no, that wouldn't, because what you're looking for, as I said, is an impression. Is somebody making a statement that just doesn't sit right with you. On LinkedIn, a lot of professionals, we write articles. So it's almost like a blog. And on LinkedIn, you can go to a person's articles and read what's important to them or what they're writing about. I'll show you really quickly. Let me just get LinkedIn up here. Oh, there it is. And I'll share. Okay, so here's my LinkedIn, right? And then if you go, oh, well, this is going to show you my version here. But so let's see. Yeah, you'll see.
Judy, you might be able to just copy the URL and log out and just go there so you're not logged in.
Yeah, I just want them to see. You'll be able to click on the person's articles. And so here are all the articles I've written. And, so I just want you to see that, there's a lot of a sense of what you can find out about a person, what they're concerned about, what's important to them. So each LinkedIn profile has a place where you can check their articles or their posts. And so the articles that they've written, if they have say a political leaning, which is never supposed to be on LinkedIn, you'd want to avoid somebody like that. Even if they're of your politics, they're misusing the platform. This is strictly business. So, you can just find out the philosophy. And I think that's sometimes key. And, how far you vet somebody depends on the type of professional they are and what they're going to get into in terms of you and your stuff, right? If there's somebody who's going to know everything, social security number and all your finances and all your, just a lot, that person I vet much more heavily than I would, a florist that, I'm just deciding on, right? I'm not going to go crazy for certain things. And also it depends on the amount of money you're going to be spending with someone. If I'm getting someone to do a trust, for example, I want a person who's really on top of their stuff. So it's very different than, but if I'm hiring a tradesman who's going to tear my house apart, I'm going to be pretty diligent about that as well.
Trust me, be that.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions?
Judy, you could use this in addition to finding a person or a company to assist you in whatever. You could also use it, if I'm following you correctly, with maybe finding like relocation areas for us if we were interested in making, you could kind of go through that same process. Am I correct?
Exactly. Yes, you can do it with anything, right? So yeah, let's just say that there was a senior community here in Denver that you were interested in, and you go through, again, Googling with the bad words, right? So for instance, if you're looking for a senior residence, there's a different, and actually I'll be sending you those questions to ask, which are very different. So what you do is you go to Medicare.gov, and every single senior residence is listed, and with what they call occurrences. In the senior housing industry, occurrences is not a good thing. So you'll see terms like elopement, meaning how many people escaped
Right.
for wandering the streets or whatever. You'll see different, so they must be reported. There's actually, in nursing homes, they pay a penalty for their occurrences, and that money goes into a pool that's almost like grants, right? And then they fund things in the aging space. So their mistakes or problems. So you can see who's done a good job and who hasn't. But that's one thing. The way you would do it in a senior community too is each area agency on aging has a professional called an ombudsman. So then okay, the reports to the government, that's on that website. But when you're doing senior housing, the ombudsman, there's always an ombudsman assigned to an assisted living in a nursing home, right? There's a particular person. So you call the area agency on aging and you say, I'm interested in this community. Is there an ombudsman assigned? And can I have that person's contact information, which they will readily give you. And you call them and you say, I've checked the government website. I know what the occurrences are, but now tell me the truth. And they will give you sort of the inside scoop. They know more than the actual what's public knowledge on the website. So there's little tricks of the trades that I tried in my former career we did a ton of research to figure out certain ways that as we age, we would be able to find out what these little tricks and loopholes are to getting much more information than the average consumer ever would get. And it was funny when we tested this out and we'd go to all these different professionals and they would say, who are you? What are you? They were afraid of a lot of the questions too. And actually, I started this years ago with senior communities in order to move people in. And it was interesting because the marketing people, I had only 25 questions that I asked, just a one-pager to the marketing people about relocating into a community. And usually they didn't even have the answers for all 25 of their own community. So they were like, oh, I have to ask the buildings person about that. I have to, so then they recognize too, when you are an intelligent consumer, they don't mess with you. They know that if you've done this, they better give you the best service. If they're choosing to take you on as a client and you're choosing to take them on as a client, as a professional, then you've got you have a respect for one another. And
I think we have to work at that because in our generation, sometimes we're kind of, I'll just use the word pushed under the rug. In other words, we're not credited with having that particular expertise to come forth. And sometimes we might be taken advantage of.
You're absolutely right. And the whole reason that I started this was because I had done a lot in the area of elder abuse, exploitation, and neglect. And prior to 2016, financial advisors were allowed to not have fiduciary responsibility to you, meaning putting the customer first. They were allowed to work with you in a sustainable manner, meaning that they could benefit even more than you. Mm-hmm. So there was fiduciary, not sustainable, suitable. Suitable and fiduciary were the two ways that a financial planner was allowed to work with you legally. In 2016, the Department of Labor changed that law. And now financial planners are only allowed to work with a customer with their fiduciary responsibility, which means putting the customer first. So what we were finding was that many older adults, years ago when there was the big, October stock market crash, it was discovered that there were so many people in their 80s and 90s and 100s who had been kept 100% in the stock market and lost everything. So these financial advisors were not acting with fiduciary responsibility So that was financial exploitation. So that was the trigger that made me think, wait a minute, there's a lot of other professions. I noticed with my mother, if you were a doctor, you were like, whatever you said goes. She would never question a doctor. If you were a lawyer, if you were an accountant, you know, her respect for professionals was so high that it blinded her to being, or it crippled her, I would say, and not being able to ask key questions.
Mhm.
So when it got to the point where like my siblings and my husband and I would go with her to different professionals or doctors or whatever, and I witnessed this, and I said, you know, Mom, is it okay if I ask so-and-so? She goes, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then she loved it. She wanted the answers, but she was so wrapped up in being polite, you know, and someone said to me after I had given this talk to a group, one of the people in the audience had said, but they're going to think that we don't trust them. You don't trust them. You don't know them. You know nothing about them. How can you trust somebody that you don't know, right? And this is where this exploitation becomes an issue. And there's an interesting thing that happens in the human brain as we age, and is that we actually become more gullible. And, you know, you talk about some of the extremes of the gullibility, right? And exploitation in terms of some man had a female caregiver and he fell in love with her. And he put her in his will and he gave her everything and he bought her everything and he married her and she was 40 years younger and, you know, and they would be like, what? Why, Dad? Why would you do this? And it has to do with this change in our brains. Right? So I've told my kids, I said, if you see this occurring in Dad or I, you have to let us know immediately. Because it's not cognitive decline, it's not dementia, it's not Alzheimer's, it is just a shift. It doesn't manifest in everybody in the same ways or at all, right? But we have to be aware. So how can we protect ourselves from being exploited? And these are the ways to be on top of it as best we can. And if we recognize that, oh, well, this vetting process is too much for me, I can't be bothered, I can't do it. Well, maybe I need an assistant or I need help. I need, whether it's a family member or a friend, or hiring that professional advocate. So you're going to get a lot of papers from me about developing your team and having this advocate, and which actually costs nothing. Getting a professional advocate, you can vet them, get them, put them on your team, and you only pay them if you need to engage them. But then that helps, they've got a pipeline, right? In case things happen, this is really important to them. So Charlene, the Department of Labor announced Monday it's proposing new regulation to government investment advice and retirement accounts to replace the rule that was vacated more than 2 years ago by the Federal Appeals Court. So the fiduciary rule, oh, this was appealed? Charlene, can you come on?
Yes, I thought, so I looked online when you were talking, that there was no longer that rule because it had been struck down or changed. And so I looked and found this one article that discussed some of the changes they're recommending to help out, but that
Trump tried to change it, but wasn't successful in doing so at the last I had heard. But I'll look at this article, which, if that is the case, if it has changed back to suitable and fiduciary, that's even more of a reason to vet these people. And even looking at some of the professionals that you have already, vet them, you know, get a little better understanding about what it is they are and what they're about, what they offer. Let's see, social networking service. Yeah, so we've got some good information here, which I'll make sure. Oh, a little off topic, but in First Attorney's website, you went to the top search bar, the link, it said not secure. Is that a concern? You know, it's interesting. I never would worry about a website that's not secure, that doesn't have any financial transactions that take place on it. You don't do anything with an attorney financially on a website. It is strictly informational. That's it. And you're not giving them your email address and your name and any of that. You're researching. So the security piece of it is, yes, every website should be updating that, but there are many that don't. Some of it's just that they don't want to be bothered, or they don't want the additional expense. So, but as long as you're not transacting and you're just using it as reference, there's no reason to be concerned. Dave, do you agree?
Yeah, I'll be talking about this actually a bit on Monday.
Okay.
But the important thing is, if you're entering any data in forms and things like that, then if it's a HTTP instead of HTTPS, then that stuff is not scrambled and potentially could be intercepted. That's what that means.
Yeah, exactly. If it is not a secure website, like if you go to a new doctor and they have the fillable forms online and they're not secure, do not do it. So don't give any information onto a website that is not secure. But yeah, just for research, I wouldn't, and again, it's one component of the vetting process. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Dave.
Judy, yeah, I wanted to ask you about the Better Business Bureau, because I've used them in the past to do research. Is that something you would recommend?
No. How do I say this? Okay.